to come out here, but you keep coming until Palestine is free. So I thank you for that. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the narratives around violence, because nobody who commits a genocide will call it a genocide. They will always have a justification. So when we look through our history books, we see the tidy narrative on the other end of the disaster, right? So for a lot of people, the way they see violence, some people are pacifists. They believe that violence is never the answer. We should always look for other alternatives. Most people tend to believe that violence is acceptable in self-defense. The trouble is how to define self-defense, because everyone's going to have a different definition, and you can hear Israel really lean on that and use that and milk that idea that they have a right to defend themselves, and killing children in the thousands is part of that unfortunate tragedy of war that falls under the category of self-defense. Everyone is going to refer to their violence as self-defense. So I wanted us to reflect a little bit about the narratives we have around violence today. A lot of you who grew up in the United States reading American history books will know that in our history classes, our textbooks only acknowledge evil as evil when it serves the state. In other cases, it won't. So I'll share a quick story. When I was in high school, they used to put in my history class a little number in parentheses next to the names of the tyrants of the past. Like they would say Hitler, and then in parentheses, they put a big ass number after his name saying how many people died because of his actions. Or for Stalin, they would put a number after his name. So I started doing that for American presidents too. My teacher did not appreciate it. And so I put after Harry S. Truman, right? Hundreds of thousands in the atomic bomb. Those were all civilians, entire cities wiped off the face of the planet. Why do they not get death counts after their name? The answer is simple, because they are American presidents. We are reading American textbooks, so we will have everybody, of course, everybody agrees that Hitler is evil, Stalin is evil, but we're not allowed to say the word evil. We're not allowed to question the sanctity of the American state, even while it leads the world in evil, even when its evil is more present, more imminent. And so, raise your hands if you have a $20 bill in your pocket right now or in your wallet. Some people have 20s on them. Who's on the $20 bill? Who do we honor on the $20 bill? Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, who created the Trail of Tears. Andrew Jackson, who committed genocide against indigenous people. This is not something that's debated. He left so much destruction in his wake. He was a genocidal maniac, and we have him on our money. So anytime there is a leader who has committed evil, they are held to a different standard depending on whether or not they are associated with the state in which we happen to live. And if it serves the narrative of the Western imperialists, then we will call evil people evil. And otherwise we have to be silent, and we're not allowed to call evil evil. So how does this apply to today? War criminals monopolize the narrative in the media by putting the oppressed on the defensive. So in psychology, there's this term DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Some of you are nodding. In abusive relationships, often narcissistic abuse, you will see people use this. So if they have done something wrong, like let's say they cheated on their partner, then the partner will accuse them of it, call them out on it, and then they will deny that this happened, so that's gaslighting. Then they will attack the partner, and then they will reverse who is the victim and who is the offender. Why don't you trust me? You have trust issues. Maybe you're cheating on me. And we see this playing out on the world stage right now, and it's very odd to see those patterns amplified on such a large scale. So a lot of you have noticed this in the mainstream media, where whether it's the liberal or the conservative media or politicians, they act as though no calendar date existed before or after October 7, despite the fact that so many of the claims regarding October 7 have either been proven to be lies, like immediately after Biden gives a press conference, his statements will be disproven, or there's no evidence to substantiate them. And they come from the most unreliable source in human history, the Israeli occupation forces, who consistently lie, and they don't even blink when they're called out on it because their entire empire is built on lies. Yet before anyone being interviewed can even say a word for Palestinian rights, they are first forced to condemn terrorists, a word that is often used in racist Islamophobic contexts to dehumanize the only ones who fight back against ethnic cleansing and apartheid from within the most impoverished and marginalized regions of the area, from among the population who has the least amount of rights, even though armed resistance against occupation is legal under international law, and everything Israel is doing has violated international law every single day. Tahar Harzallah from American Muslims of Palestine said something very interesting that stuck with me. He said that Israel, like people who stand with Israel will often say that Israel has the right to exist. No state has the right to exist, he says. People have the right to exist. States do not have the right to exist. People have the responsibility to condemn and bring down the states who are causing so much destruction and evil. If states exist to serve the people, then once they start killing the people, they absolutely do not have the right to exist. That's not a luxury any state should be given. That's fascist. So, in conclusion, never stop questioning dominant narratives around violence, especially when those in power seem especially forceful or desperate to have you blindly believe them. Continue to question those narratives. Continue to dare to say what people don't want you to say, because often that's what needs to be said the most. I was listening to a story about a Palestinian who happens to have American citizen family, so he was able to leave Palestine, and he was trying to cross through Rafah, the southern border of Gaza, and right as he was trying to leave with all the American passports and whatever, the IDF called him over with 200 other Palestinian men, and one of them was a very young man, you could call him a child, and he was crying and he was saying, "I want my mom, I want my mom." And the man was trying to comfort him and say, "Don't worry, they're just going to ask us a few questions and then we'll be on our way. They just need to look at our documents." So he brought all of his documents. The IDF proceeded to strip the men naked. They stripped down to their boxers and they said, "No, even your boxers." And then they beat them. And they held them. And they took their passports and documents and they did not give those documents back. And so that's just a little snippet of the daily horrors that happen. There's violence escalating all the time in the West Bank. In Jerusalem recently, the Israeli government gave permission for their far-right groups to march against Al-Aqsa, one of the holy sites in Islam. And so all over Palestine, every little pocket of it, the oppression continues, and we continue to stand here until it ends. Would anyone like to come up and say a few words? Adina? Resistance is justified when people are occupied. 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 Resistance is justified when people